Clay just sent this to me, though. Really interesting that we have Trump 5. This is Emerson College polling, and in a head-to-head, Trump is opening a 5% lead against Biden. There's a lot of other numbers and data in here. Clay, anything else that jumps out to you? It's Trump holds 44% support, Biden 39% support.
Yeah, what jumps out at me, Buck, is I've never seen Donald Trump with a 5-point lead in any presidential poll nationwide in his entire political career. And you may have seen one. I just haven't. Obviously, the polling in 2016 wildly underestimated Trump. The same thing happened in 2020 when people expected it to be a total landslide election, and obviously it was not. And I've just never seen Trump with a 5-point lead in a national poll ever against Hillary or ever against Biden. So this to me is symptomatic of how much Trump is increasing in stature as Biden is decreasing, if that makes sense.
Yes.
The best strategy for Trump almost is just to lay back and let Biden implode. The other one is we've talked some about the 2024 Republican primary, who's going to run. We had Kristi Noem on yesterday, governor of South Dakota, said she wouldn't run basically if Trump is running.
Right, but VP candidate?
VP potentially.
Yeah.
But
very
in this Emerson poll, Trump gets 55% of Republican presidential support. DeSantis gets 20. Now, this is a nationwide poll, and nationwide primary polling can be a mess, but 55 to 20. Mike Pence, 9 points here, and Nikki Haley, 3. And then you got Cruz, Rubio, Cotton, Pompeo, Scott, Hawley, all at around 1. So Trump right now, prohibitive favorite in this poll in 2024. Obviously, we don't even know who exactly is going to be running. But what jumped out to me primarily here, Buck, is a 5-point lead for Trump over Biden. For people who are in Texas, by the way, poll also came out today, a CBS poll. Greg Abbott, who we had on earlier this week, the governor of Texas, 8-point lead over Beto O'Rourke. I don't think that race is going to be very close at all.
Certainly hope not.
Where we find ourselves, unfortunately, is as we enter July, we have just posted the worst first 6 months of the S&P 500, the stock market, since 1970. 52-year worst story for Joe Biden, even worse than the 8.6% inflation, which is at 40-year highs. Everything that Joe Biden touches is falling apart, quite simply. And Biden advisor Brian Deese, well, he said Americans just need to be reminded of how well things are actually going. Listen to this argument that doesn't really register at all.
Look, these are uncertain times, and when prices are high, people are understandably frustrated when they're pulling up at the gas pump, and that's understandable. And at the same time, it is our job, and it's the president's firm conviction that what he can do as president is to take every responsible action that he has. And we have, and also remind the American people that even as we go through this challenging period, even as we move through this transition, we also have made historic economic progress. And that's not to suggest that people shouldn't feel the anxiety that they feel. Of course, they do.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it. And also, as we break this down, David Axelrod, who obviously was instrumental in Obama's election, he said, and he knows Joe Biden well, since obviously he worked alongside of Biden as well as the then vice president, there's a sense, and there's this definite sense, that Biden's not in control of what's going on in the country. You think when David Axelrod is saying it, Buck, it's more and more evidence that they're trying to push Joe Biden out as the top of the ticket in 2024. But listen to Axelrod.
There is this sense that things are kind of out of control and he's not in command. And this lends to that. Inflation is, no one president could control inflation, but it is it's a gale force wind right now. It's affecting politics. Very hard to You heard him on gas prices today. Talks about the gas tax holiday, but he's not going to get the gas tax holiday, and there are a lot of Americans who are skeptical about whether that would help. So there, this is a very, very fraught environment for him right now.
So here's the thing, Buck. We're all excited to celebrate July 4th. I was thinking about this yesterday as I was sort of thinking about past July 4ths. Can you remember a time when America has felt weaker to you than it does right now? Not that we're anti-America, certainly, but just as a country, can you remember a time in your life where it's July 4th and you feel like we're in a weaker position than we are right now? Because frankly, I can't.
I mean, objectively, we're in a rough spot right now. But I like to think long term, and I don't mean long term like the next 50 years. I mean long term, the next couple of years, things are going to turn around. I said at the start of the show, I had believed there was a real possibility that just by existing, the Biden regime would be lifted up by the normal recovery from the pandemic
That's
madness.
what we all expected, I think.
Yeah, lockdowns, none of that ever needed to happen. None of that was a good idea. That was all the lockdowns, the destruction of productivity, the destruction of businesses, and the spending out of thin air of trillions of dollars to prop all the system up while that was going on. Those were terrible decisions that did not need to be the way they were, did not need to happen that way. So, but I thought, okay, just by not doing that again, there'll be a big surge. And I think there was a little bit of that last year around this time, and that's why Biden, remember, you read the tweet, your burgers
Your savings,
and
16 cents or whatever it
16
was.
cents. Don't spend it all in one place, peasants. And that was the idea. But now what we see is, well, actually the 1.9 trillion of even more spending they did with the American Rescue Plan and all of the policy decisions made around energy and around the border and around everything has resulted in this situation we're in right now, which is the country heading in the wrong direction. Everybody sees it. Everyone feels it. Everyone knows it. But I do think that it's going to take a while, but the course correction. So the answer to your question, yes, we're in a rough spot right now, but I think the course correction is coming. The ocean liner may be heading toward the shore and the rocks right now in a bad way. This election cycle coming up is going to be turning it slowly back toward open ocean where everybody can be enjoying their drinks with umbrellas in them and hanging out in the sunshine. It's going to take a little time, but I do think we will be getting there.
Every president basically is getting judged based on the choices that he makes. And there are a lot of tough choices, right? A lot of them, you've been to the White House to advise presidents when you were in the CIA to brief them. If they get to the president's desk, they are by their nature a difficult decision to make. It feels like every single time that Biden has had to make a decision, he's made the wrong one. And as we sit here on July 4th weekend and get ready, I'm trying to think in 18 months, Buck, can you name one thing that Joe Biden has gotten right? We talked yesterday. I said, Biden's the first president that I can ever remember where if he had just gotten into office and done nothing, made no attempt to fix things with COVID in terms of the rescue bill and everything else, if he hadn't passed a single bill, I think the country would be better off. And I can't ever remember a president that you could say that about before. Now, I can't think of anything that he's passed that's made things better. Do you have the sense? Can you even name something that he's gotten right?
No, that's what I was going to say is even with previous administrations, people sometimes I remember I got a little pushback on this one, but when they were selling, let's go back to the last Democrat president, right? Barack Obama. When they were selling us on Obamacare, and this is right around when I left CIA and got involved in media, I remember that one of the problems we ran into was all that, it was Obamacare, and there's a lot of talking points around it, but they had two things, really one, that were very smart in their selling of that program that they could always point to, and it was that they were going to make it parity for parity for mental health was one, and meaning so physical health, mental health coverage. But the really big one, as we all remember, I'm actually literally blanking on it in this time. They were going to there was the parents' insurance till you're 26, no pre-existing conditions. That's what I was trying to think of, and that was all you heard about. No pre-existing. Now, actual rejections for true pre-existing conditions were a very small part of the overall health care pool, but people did have an emotional response to it. They did feel like, what's going on? So my point being, they at least had that thing to sell with the policy that resonated with enough people that they were able to ram it through without a single Republican vote. Biden doesn't even have that. They don't even have the talking point other than to say that, well, what is their go-to? We created, 8 million jobs. No one thinks he created 8 million jobs.
We're still not back to the same number of jobs that we had in this country in March of 2020 when we made the disastrous decision to shut down. Look, you can point to Barack Obama killed Osama bin Laden. By the way, Joe Biden
not by the midterms, but not at this point, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, I'm just saying, like, in terms of his tenure, and everybody forgets that Joe Biden opposed the raid that killed Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, no, but I was right. It was May 2nd of 2011, so it was after the midterm wipeout. Now, and you remember people said at the time, including, I believe, some people who were on that, some members of the SEAL team that were on that raid, it's going to be a big help for Barack Obama. And it was a big help for Barack Obama because other than that one instance, the foreign policy of Democrats under the Obama administration was atrocious. Atrocious.
And Joe Biden didn't agree with the decision, which goes to the judgment even when he had the ability to make choices. I can't even think. I mean, we could open up phone lines and ask this. I mean, I can't even think, Buck, of one thing that you could point to and say Biden made the right call on this.
I never want our people, our extended family of everyone who listens to this show to ever be in a situation where their smarmy neighbor, who's walking around with the N95 on still, with a Biden-Harris 2024 T-shirt on,
if they even made those
drinking out of a climate change is an existential threat tea cozy. I never want them to be in a situation where they're hit with some argument that they go, wait, why haven't if they had a compelling, because that's why I brought up the Obama talking point about pre-existing conditions, because there was this huge bill with thousands of pages, but that was how they rammed it all through, and that was how they pushed it, and they had this one thing that was really, a lot of people were like, oh gosh, pre-existing conditions, I can kind of understand that. Never mind all the socialism and everything else that was involved in it. Biden doesn't even have that right now. The 8 million jobs line just ain't going to work.
I really can't even think of what Joe Biden would say if he were able to be an advocate for what he's done.
I mean, Trump is really what it comes down to. And anyone can handle it was so bad when we had more peace, stability, economic prosperity, and, general sanity in the operations of the federal government. I don't know. I think I miss it. I think everyone else knows they miss it too.
Well, that's why Trump, as we said, is now up 5 points on Joe Biden. He's never had a 5-point lead, to my knowledge, in a national poll in his entire presidential tenure, like the time he's run for president. Can you think of a time when he would have had a 5-point lead in a national poll?
No.
I've never seen it.
He's in his strongest perception of Trump nationally versus Biden has got to be in its strongest position since the election, without question. Probably ever, actually, when you think about it. Was he ever up 5 points?
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think against Hillary, certainly not against Biden, because by the time Biden got the nomination, COVID had happened. Everything was kind of in chaos. But even from the time he came down the escalator in 2016 or 2015 to begin his presidential campaign, I don't believe he's ever had a 5-point lead in a national poll. I don't think it's ever occurred.
I think you're right.
The Hill has a poll up. 71% of Americans, according to their poll, don't want Joe Biden to run for re-election. 71%. Now, some of you are saying, how in the world are there 29% that want him to run? But I was looking at this. We've never seen a situation like this with an incumbent president, where 71% of the American public, Joe Biden said he was going to unite America again. What he's united us all in is that he's an awful president. Of the people that don't want him to run, 45% said simply he shouldn't run because he's a bad president, which that's true. But a third of them said he's just too old, and a quarter said it's just time for change. Increasingly, Buck, I don't see any way that Biden's going to be able to run in 24. I think he's going to have to announce in March or April of next year that he's out, that he's done.
One component of the Biden presidency that I don't think the Democrats were prepared for is that he is almost singular as a politician in that he really inspires no personal brand allegiance.
Yeah.
Right? Obama had that at a whole other level for Democrats, right? People voting for Obama, if you're a Democrat, was a symbol of how, cool and smart and great you were, right? Among Democrats.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, Obama support. And even with Hillary, there are lots of people who, Hillary represents a postmodernist, feminist, ultimate success
She's
story.
Breaking the glass ceiling.
Exactly.
They were Hillary people.
And so there are a lot of, Democrat wine moms and cat ladies who were really excited about the prospect of voting for Hillary would have made them feel a certain way.
Yes.
A vote against Biden was in a way that I don't even know if you could find anything like this for decades looking back in the past. A vote for Biden was a vote against Trump.
That's it.
And there's nobody who sits around saying, hey, you know who I voted for? Joe Biden, and expects everybody to, all the ladies to swoon over that one. Like, no one cares, right?
Yes.
You voted for Biden because you hated Trump.
There are no Biden T-shirts or bumper stickers is an easy way to think about it. No one is out, like, whether you love or hated Trump, the Trump paraphernalia and apparel was everywhere. I don't remember the last time that I saw someone wearing a Joe Biden T-shirt or even having a Joe Biden bumper sticker.
And I do think part of the miscalculation, too, was I believe in the green rooms of CNN and the editorial pages of the New York Times, there was a belief that Kamala would add some
of
that
be a rock star.
Personal rock star component to the overall ticket. And so that was what – now, if they had paid attention to – Kamala Harris, I don't think but it didn't matter. They figured, it checks the right boxes.
Yes.
Exactly. She's younger and, she's cool and, whatever. All that stuff. They don't have that with Biden at all. So it really now is, when they do those generic polls, Biden was generic Democrat candidate. It was just vote right. D. That's what Joe Biden was. And now that the results are in about how that's gone for them, they probably want to replace him at the top of the ticket.
Well, my concern, and this is my biggest concern about a Trump 24 candidacy, is the election should be a referendum on the incumbent. Joe Biden has done an awful job. Can Trump let an election not be about him? Like, can he make the case that Biden was awful, or does Biden or whoever's running get to make the case of I'm not Trump? That's my biggest concern about 2024, because there are people who do. I know this doesn't shock anybody. There are people out there who do not like Donald Trump and will not vote for him. And it will not matter who the Democrats put forward. But the case in 24 is not about Trump. It's about how awful the Democrats have done. Can that be the story? Will Trump let it be the story? That's my biggest concern.
I think we got to get him on and talk to him about this soon. I mean, we'll reach out to the big guy.
We need to get him on again soon. I mean, that's my biggest concern about 24. Biden should lose epically. Should not be remotely close. But if the election doesn't become a referendum on Biden and turns into a referendum on Trump or a referendum on the 2020 election, it ends up tight.
The Democrats think they can win with that playbook. They think they can. That's the only reason
way
they haven't pushed Biden out effectively in their own minds is that they're waiting to see. They think the only way Biden could actually get a second term is if Trump runs against him. Is that true or not? Obviously, huge question.